So I want to thank everyone for joining us today and let you know we have a great presentation on modernizing your Microsoft 365 security and why your security of my Microsoft 365 should be your top priority. So we're going to cover today the top security threat of your Microsoft 365 environment in 2023, and then also why hackers really love it if you use Microsoft 365, and the terrifying ways that hackers have been updated or have updated their attacks in the last few months. And as well as that, we are going to cover the two simplest steps you should take immediately to protect yourself and your business and your Microsoft 365 environment. And we do have a special guest with us today, but I will go ahead and pass it over to Henry to get us started and make the introductions.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Stephanie. I really appreciate you introducing us. And like Stephanie said, we're really excited to have y'all here. There's a lot of important things that we're going to run through. Just a quick brief history on us. If you don't know much about Key Solutions, we do see a lot of guests on the webinar. We've got offices in Dallas, Metairie, Baton Rouge. We've been doing this since 1999, and we are a full-service IT and security focused organization, and take care of our clients 24/7, 365. So we're really happy to be having this conversation. It's stuff that we see day in, day out. A little bit about me. I'm president, one of the founders of the company. I've been doing this for a little bit. Actually wrote a book about some security concepts, and if you're interested in that, you can ask us at the end of the webinar, and we'd be glad to get you a copy of that. More importantly, I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, Augmentt. Augmentt is a phenomenal partner for us. We're very excited to be working with them because they're helping us shore up some really important frontiers of our clients' environments. And representing Augmentt is Stephan Tomecko. Stephan, tell us about yourself.
Oh, thank you very much, Henry. So I'm the head of our partner success team here at Augmentt. We work with our partners to help with issues like app monitoring and specifically on Microsoft security. And we've been doing this for a few years now. And what we really enable partners to do is, to audit security, to enable good baseline security postures, and to make sure that we're aware if anything does get through any of our security walls there.
Awesome. Well, if y'all are from around here, most of our clients are from the South. You'll notice that Stephan's does not have a Louisiana accent. That's okay.
Yeah. Yes, I'm half English and half Canadian.
That's all right. We won't hold either of those against you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Well, kind of getting rolling into this. If you'll hang tight to the end, we're going to try to get this wrapped up in 30-40 minutes at the latest, but hang tight to the end. We'll be providing a very valuable resource with Augmentt's assistance, an audit of your Microsoft 365 environment. And we'll explain why that's so important, and we'll give you a ton of other resources towards the end. Now, if you got webinar invite emails, or if you found us on the LinkedIn or a web page or whatever, you notice we have the agenda, and that's what Stephanie kind of outlined. But let me simplify it for you a little bit. We want to talk today, and we'll pop this slide up again in a little bit. We're going to talk about how hackers are attacking your Microsoft 365. We're going to hit three really powerful specific examples, and we'll walk through those, and then we are going to get to what you can do about it in those best practices. So hang tight with us. This is going to be exactly what we're going to walk through this. Now, it's important to kind of set the underlying base concept of why are hackers attacking Microsoft 365. It's nothing special about Microsoft. It's nothing special about you using your email there. It's really, let's look at it from, like, why are they attacking Google, and why are they attacking Amazon or any cloud resources that you have out there, and maybe what makes Microsoft 365 platform a little special in that vein, or in that kind of perspective, is for one thing, Microsoft 365 is the majority player in hosted cloud email and interaction and just the whole office workspace environment. It's something like 90%, 90, I don't know, Stephan, didn't you say?
Yeah, about 95% of businesses in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's just everywhere. People are putting more and more into it. Our business clients are starting to use all these new corners of Microsoft 365, like Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, and they're using all the daily reporting, and they're starting to put just their entire business, their phone systems, all of that into there. So it's getting richer and richer from what's the value of the target, because all of our clients are putting more and more data there. And sadly, I would say, and I think this is where Augmentt and Stephan, where you guys have a phenomenal solution for us, is that most of the companies that we talk to think because they are in Microsoft 365, because they can say that sentence right there, their security is at a higher level. And really, what our job is to do today is to explain where that's not a reality. Just because you move into their platform, yes, they turn on some features, they require you to put a password in there, but that doesn't make you secure. And the sad reality is that the safer you think you are and don't look into it and don't investigate it, really the less safe you are in that respect. So
I'd 100% agree that I was listening to a Microsoft webinar just last year where one of their directors mentioned that, one of the strongest things we can do is, have multi-factor authentication, but of all the audited Microsoft accounts in the world, only about 11% of them have that baseline level of security attached to their accounts. And now, of course, that includes, consumer grade students and home users as well. But that's a shockingly low number.
Shocking. That's terrible. 11%. So yeah, we've got some work to do. Now, so we've seen maybe why they're attacking. Just a little bit of insight into that. A few updates that are important for you to acknowledge and be aware of about how they're attacking, and Stephan's going to really dig into some very specific technical bits of that, not too techy, but really important nuances of that. But a couple really important numbers that you've got to remember now is that from 2021 and 2022 data, what we're seeing now is that hackers are staying actively involved in investigating your systems, and they're under the hood, inside your networks, on your computers, on average for 212 days before they're caught, before your software triggers an alarm, before anybody notices that something weird is going on. And on average, across all the big breaches that were surveyed for 2021 and 2022, we're seeing that there's like 287 days from when the hacker got in to when they're finally kicked out of a system. 287 days is like almost a year. It's 9 months. It's a ridiculous amount of time. And if you think about it, what if a burglar was in your house for 287 days before you finally got him out? They would probably have walked off with your TV and your safe and all your good stuff. Terrifying story here is that we're seeing that News Corp, and this is from just a few days ago, News Corp found that the Chinese hackers that just breached their systems had been in there for 2 years. So not 212 days, not 287 days, close to 700 days. So terrifying concept there. And we'll dig into this a little bit more, but without digging in and making insults about Cisco, because they're a phenomenal company, but almost every trick that Stephan's going to walk through and that we'll talk about today, Cisco fell for in May of last year. Call center fraud, deep fake, consent phishing, MFA fatigue, all the tricks that the hackers are using now, we're getting some really good insights into them because big companies are saying, look, this is what happened. This is how we got attacked. And there are things that if a company like Cisco, who their entire reason for being is to connect and secure companies, if they're falling for it, small businesses are susceptible as well. So just kind of a heads up. Stephan, I'm gonna be quiet for a minute and hand it off to you as we start kind of walking through and tell us what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the biggest vectors still for people to get into our Microsoft accounts is by getting in through passwords. And they're getting much more sophisticated nowadays. There's a lot more infrastructure that hackers and bad actors have been working on at the same time we've been working on our security stack to try and get around the current and upcoming safety precautions we have in place. Now, one of the things that I find the most worrying is that access to information is a lot easier nowadays. So it's not that challenging for a bad actor to get a hold of any data that you have that might have been leaked out. So to give you an example, if I was to look at breaching some passwords on somebody's Microsoft account, I could pay less than $1 and get 1,000 pairs of usernames and passwords. And so the price point is very low. And in fact, for $150, I could be getting up to 400 million pairs, which is the population of the United States and Canada combined, just for $150. I very easily run a script that would then try and access those accounts. So the access to data is a lot stronger, and the price for getting those breaches is a lot lower. It's sense to compromise a PC, just over $1 to compromise a mobile device. It's not that attackers are specifically looking for you and your company. They're just looking for the available data. And if you happen to be on one of those lists, they're going to come after you. If somebody was to specifically target your business, again, the price point is not that high. It would be about $250 to hire somebody to breach you. So the idea that you're too small or not relevant enough to have somebody in a dark room looking to get into your business is no longer the case. They're just looking for any unlocked doors in the neighborhood that they can open and walk into.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that makes this problematic, and is still a problem, is the ability for people to do password sprays and to get into your account. And the real issue there is people aren't using the strongest passwords, let's say, and they're still using some very common passwords, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might see QWERTY quite a lot. One of the things that we can do to help reduce this is to ensure that we have strong passwords, or in some way we're using a password manager or password generator to make sure that we have really strong passwords so that people can't just guess what our passwords are. Because believe it or not, it is still a huge problem. And a lot of the time that's because you try and pick something that's easy to remember, and if it's easy to remember for you, it's probably easy to remember for somebody else, and somebody else has probably already used that password as well. So one of the things we can definitely do to get in the way of these bad actors is to make sure we are using strong passwords, and that we're rotating our passwords on a regular basis.
No doubt.
And just digging into Microsoft's reports here again, phishing is still the leading attack on Microsoft that we see, and phishing is generally just an attempt by a bad actor to fool you into giving up some information or giving access to something that they don't currently have. And they're getting very sophisticated in how they do this. They might set up dummy websites that look exactly like the website you think you're about to log in. They'll send you an email that would look exactly like the vendor who normally sends you emails. And what they're doing is they're tricking you into giving up your password and username so that they can add that to a list. And once they've added that to the list, obviously they can run scripts and try and get into your environment there. So it's really important that we stay on top of that and we're aware of, what kind of messaging we should be receiving, and we're very careful about what we click on, who we trust when we get an email. We're checking the email address it's come from. We're making sure that the links that are in that email don't look malicious. And there are some things that we can put in place to help with that as well.
Absolutely. So if they're hiring or buying a big list of passwords, if they're trying all the worst passwords in the world, which I can't believe somebody's still using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but or if they're tricking you into giving your passwords away, either way, the password is still a critical part of securing it, securing your environment. And to kind of continue that attack vector, once they've got into somebody's password, and if they've got a password that works and they can get into somebody's Microsoft 365 system, they're going to send an email. Now, the FBI just released their latest study, and they said in 2022, the number one threat, again, the number one complaint, the number one online criminal activity that they received complaints for and had to investigate was business email compromise. That's where somebody's email account gets hacked, and they send you emails that are fraudulent, or your email account gets hacked and you send all of your customers and vendors and employees an email that's fraudulent. So this is a big deal. This is the number one thing, the number one entry point in part of a larger cyber attack or a larger online criminal activity where they steal money, steal resources, shut down businesses. So we can't put it aside and say, the bad emails are a minor thing. Let's not worry about it. No, it's huge. It's a massive problem. So, Stephan, you mentioned that the strength and security of our passwords is huge, and what we're seeing now is that even the FBI and Microsoft are saying, look, we got to take a really good password, combine it with multi-factor authentication, and you're going to be better off, right?
That's right. Yep.
So what we're seeing now is people are putting all kinds of MFA systems into place, and we've all seen like the old RSA key fobs, which they're still in use today, and we've seen other forms of multi-factor authentication, like a telephone call or a text message, or Microsoft has a really good authenticator application. We sell a couple different products that are really strong multi-use authenticator applications for MFA, but they're not all built the same, and they're not all MFA techniques or multi-factor authentication techniques are the same. And just having the ability to say, yes, I have MFA, does not make your passwords and your system secure. So kind of walking through some of those, one of the most common things that we saw several years ago, and it is still occurring today, is SIM swapping. SIM swapping is this really kind of old school attack where an attacker collects a little bit of information about you, like your social security number, your email address, maybe your names and address and all that, and they get that through phishing, they get that through social media, they get that through stalking you, they get that from the dark web. So they get a little bit of information about you. They call the phone provider, and this happens every day. It's crazy that it happens, but it does. They call the phone provider and they impersonate you, and they get the phone provider to give them access to just basically port your number to them. So if you're getting that authentication from like a cell phone call or a text message, if that's how you're getting that MFA, they'll have swapped your cell phone number over to their phone, and now they can use your username and password that they stole earlier or guessed or phished or somehow they got you to give up. They can ask for the MFA from your bank or from Microsoft 365. And when they get that text message or that call, they say yes to allow it in, allow themselves to give access. It's very common. It's very simple to understand. This is why we don't really recommend or love or really, this is why we have real problems with people using cell phone or telephone number or text message based MFA. Another problem, and this is a part of what happened with Cisco in May of last year, is MFA fatigue. As we get more and more people used to having MFA as a part of their daily life, and they're used to getting, say, that call or that text or that pop-up on their cell phone all day long, if you get a whole bunch of those and you're just not paying attention, what's gonna happen, and this happened to Cisco, it happens to companies all the time now, and it's sad but true, but we're seeing employees and end users not really paying attention to the MFA pop-up request or the call or the text message, and they're authorizing it. They're saying yes, or they're giving up the code. And it's just basically being kind of what we call fatigued by too many MFA pop-ups. Without going into a whole lot of detail, we're seeing this attack happen more and more and more, and the statistics are kind of sad behind that, but it's getting worse and worse literally every month. One of the last little things that's really messing up MFA as a great tool is this what we call adversary in the middle, or man in the middle, or web page in the middle, or whatever you want to call it. But here's how basically it works. And this is, again, we're talking about things that are basically defeating MFA. And the hacker sends you an email, you pick it up, it's a fraudulent email, looks good, but it's not. And they say, look, it's time to change your Microsoft 365 password, or you need to log into this thing. And maybe you've got some programs at your office, your accounting, or your ERP, your CRM, or whatever, your sales system, and it's all integrated into Microsoft 365. So you're used to going and having to put your Microsoft credentials in multiple times a day, or every time you log in the morning. But the hacker sends you an email, you click on it, thinking that it's really Microsoft 365's login page. You go put in your email, but it really, the link was to a fake website that they spun up, they put up, and they can put these up in seconds. And where you put your username and password in, it doesn't really go to Microsoft, it goes to the hacker. They're able to hop over to Microsoft's actual site, they log in, you get the message on your phone to say, hey, can we let you log in? You think it was you because you just did it just seconds ago, but really what you're doing is you're letting the hacker into Microsoft 365 or whatever the ERP or whatever system is. So this is it is really common. And it is becoming easier and easier every day for the hackers to do this. So, a sad reality, and we've got to think this through, and you've got to become aware of this and kind of bake this into your security practices, is that attackers are still able to overcome and get past your really good passwords, which are important, and your MFA. Especially if you're using some of the weak MFAs. Now, let's talk about how they're defeating even the best MFA systems. One is a technology or a trick or a technique that they're using that we've roughly categorized as consent phishing. So again, they send you the email, you get it, and instead of an email with like, hey, log in here, what we're seeing now is emails that say, hey, look, I need you to give me authorization to make this thing work, or plug this system into your Microsoft 365. Basically connect an application to your Microsoft 365, connect some web service to it. And they can fake that message and make it look like it's actually, Adobe Reader or your CRM or your ERP or your sales system. But what you're actually doing is you're allowing the hacker to plug their program in to your Microsoft 365 system, and what they're using those for is to steal your data out of there, or give them and their cronies access, encrypt your email, whatever it is that they're doing. So I've got to be really careful about watching for those emails. And the last little thing that I'll throw out there is that we can actually demonstrate this pretty simply, that if the malicious actor can get on your computer somehow or another, any which way they can completely bypass your MFA. And a simple example is, one way they could get in is if they can steal your password from, maybe purchase it from the dark web or something. They can log in directly, maybe to your computer. Or if they have gotten you to install their backdoor program because they sent you an email, they got you on a website or whatever, if they can get remote access to your computer, some way, shape, or form, if they can get on your computer, they can steal a couple lines of code. They can steal the files that make up that MFA kind of authorization, and they can steal that piece of the MFA system that's called the token. And they can steal that token and they can let themselves in. They can move that token to their computer in Korea, China, Russia, wherever they're at, and they can log in, and you'll never even get a pop-up. You'll never get the call. You'll never get the text message saying, hey, can we let you in? Because they've got the token. They've actually got the golden ticket straight into your system. So we've got to be very, very careful about that. And it sounds all terrible and defeating and depressing. Stephan, I'm going to hand it over to you to see if you can give us a little bit of good news. What can this stuff?
Absolutely. So, as much as these bad actors are coming up with new ways to attack us, we also have new and improving ways that we can deal with this. And one of the best things we can do to start is to make sure that our best practices are configured, and that we have all of the doors locked that we need to lock. And what we're going to do is deal with those password attack threats, deal with those MFA threats, and those slightly more scary things like consent phishing and token theft as well.
All right.
So the first thing we can really do there is to ensure that our password attacks are locked out. And the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to stop people from stealing, guessing, or phishing our passwords. Easy way to do that is to enforce multi-factor authentication across your business for every user. Make sure that every user has very strong passwords in place so that guessing is not an option anymore. And we want to ensure that not only do we have anti-phishing policies in place, but we also want to do a little bit of training around phishing with our staff as well.
Yep. All right.
Now,
even any
yeah.
kind of MFA will stop just a password attack.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
However, to deal with some of those more sophisticated attacks, like SIM jacking and to get around the man-in-the-middle attacks and to help with MFA fatigue, making sure that we have a really strong MFA structure and policy in place is really going to help. So we want to ensure that our MFA is using something like Duo or a more secure MFA method, because text and email MFA is no longer as safe as we once thought, as we've seen from these SIM jacking attacks and man-in-the-middle attacks. If we're getting those MFA alerts from text and email, it's not good enough anymore to ensure that we're staying safe there.
Yeah.
And the final thing there, is to get a good baseline and make sure that people can't, consent phish us or steal our tokens. So really important stuff there. Make sure that our antivirus is up to date. We have anti-malware running on our devices, and that's going to stop people from, stealing our tokens and getting into our MFA. And we also have to do something called least privileged access, which is basically making sure that only the right people have the right access, the right tools at the right time. One of the things that would have happened to Cisco, and I know definitely happened to LastPass a while ago, is that if you give everybody access to to all the security passwords, for example, in a password manager, it only takes one person to be breached who wasn't running antivirus and anti-malware for all of those passwords to go. So compartmentalizing who has access to what information and what security logins is a great way to stop these or to reduce the damage that any breaches do have on your business. Another really important thing is making sure that we all stay well aware and well trained on the latest practices that are happening in the space. So, having a partner like Turnkey is super helpful for this. They'll be able to keep you up to date on all the latest things that people are trying to do to get into your accounts and make sure that you and your staff have the awareness and the training necessary to deal with those. And talking about consent phishing and specifically, one of the best things we can do to start that is to have a branded portal login. So what a lot of these guys will try and do is to, for example, clone your Microsoft login page. So you'll get a request to log into Microsoft. It'll look 100% like the standard Microsoft login portal. You'll go and enter your details in, and you've just given your details to a bad actor. So a really good way for us to deal with that, and something that we here at Augmentt have been recommending for a long time, is to make sure that you custom brand that login portal. So maybe you have your company name and Turnkey's logo in there so that you can see that this is the actual login portal that you need to be using, because it's very hard to clone that out of the box. The bad actors would have to know specifically about your company, specifically about Turnkey. And as we mentioned earlier, all they're doing is running names on lists, so they won't have access to that information. So it's a really good way to ensure that those token thefts and consent phishing are kept at bay.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing that we always recommend and something that we facilitate here at Augmentt is making sure that we have real-time monitoring going all the time. Now, the reason that we always recommend monitoring is in case something does get through the tight security net that we've just put in place. Now, one of the biggest vulnerabilities still to this day is not always the great MFA that we have in place, the strong passwords we have in place, but it's the person in the middle. It's we like to say the piece of meat between the screen and the seat. The biggest vulnerability in your business is the human element. And that's what a lot of bad actors are going to try and exploit. So making sure that we have real-time breach notifications in place in case something gets through, so that we can take appropriate actions to block access and make sure that passwords are reset and people are kept out of those accounts is a key part of your security perimeter.
One of the things I love about the Augmentt platform that you guys bring to us is the ability to see a couple really pretty cool things. One of which I think y'all have classified as impossible travel.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's where, for example, Henry logged into Microsoft 365 in Baton Rouge this morning. And then at lunch, Henry logged into Microsoft 365 from Korea. And they flagged that as this thing called impossible travel. And fire off alerts so that you can go and shut down that account. And this is something that we see popping up a lot nowadays, and it's really kind of spooky when you see it come up on the control panel. But it gives us the ability to go block that account and shut it down and stop the attack. So
absolutely. And there's three alerts in that set that are really key. Like impossible travel is obviously one of the most scary. The other one that we have as well is unlikely travel, which if like let's say you're logging in from one state over, but you've done it in a very fast amount of time, even someone trying to breach you from the United States can get flagged. The other alert that goes in tandem with all of those is unfamiliar features. So we can track if it does seem legit, the passwords were right, MFA was done, but maybe it was accessed from a machine that is not normally used, or from a city just over the way, which you wouldn't normally log in from. So we can even alert on those severity of threats, and take action and make sure that the right person has the right access at the right time.
Yep. So really important. Now, talked about like what to do. I love that you guys have a framework and a plan for where you came up with these ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the how is a very important question, and out of the gate, we align ourselves very early on with the NIST framework, which we find works really well for cybersecurity, especially M365 security. And what we're really looking at here is to have a framework where we're able to identify issues, protect our users, detect anything that might be untoward, and respond to those threats in as much real time as we can.
So
So
identify them quickly.
so the first thing we need to do is audit those vulnerabilities. We need to make sure that all the doors are locked and the alarms are turned on, because most of the time when a bad actor comes into your environment, they've just been trying the front door in all the way across the street in the neighborhood. As soon as they find an open door, they're walking in. And so, this helps us to find the problems. We can set up alerts and reports so that if anything, does start to happen, people are trying to, password spray or brute force their way in or steal our tokens. We have security measures in place to deal with that. Now, the best thing we can do in terms of configuring our best practices there is lock your doors and turn on the alarms. Make sure we get that good security baseline, and that we're checking all those boxes we talked about earlier, so that you have a good understanding of what your current security level is, what holes may exist, and we're making sure that we've shut as many doors as possible and we've turned on as many alarms as possible to keep us as secure as possible.
If I could briefly here on this, what I love about the Augmentt platform is it gives us, because in Microsoft's control panels, there's just, it feels like there's thousands of switches and things that you can go configure and flip and go do this, that, and the other. And unless you've been through a lot of training courses, it's daunting, and a lot of times we see that it's just configured poorly. They have all the tools, they haven't set them up right, or they've set them up right for a few people but not the whole company. And what your platform is allowing turnkey to do for our clients is to really set everybody at your company up properly and lock it in and maintain it and set it to NIST guidelines or Microsoft's best practice guidelines. So I really love that.
Absolutely, and one of the things we're able to do there is to have an out-of-the-box configuration so that we can have all the steps turned on straight out of the box. It makes it a lot easier because if any of you have operated inside the Microsoft portal, you'll know sometimes it's 18 tabs and like 25 clicks just to enable one feature for one user.
Yeah.
So having the ability to centrally manage that for all users in a company is a great benefit, and it means that we can respond a lot faster and make sure that our baselines are set up a lot more uniformly across all of our users.
So moving along with that NIST framework, being
Mm.
able to detect breaches rapidly is so important. And if you haven't configured the alerting properly, you're never going to be able to do it. If you don't have the alerting properly, you're never going to be able to do it. And one thing that I love about about working with you guys is now we have kind of a simple platform that allows us to detect and alert, and to the point of the next one, respond and contain the situation rapidly, because we've been able to do the previous steps really well. It's allowing us to find these issues and respond to them quickly. So it's been really cool, and it's so powerful to have a plan like that cybersecurity framework from NIST, and to have the tool that allows you to implement it, like you said, uniformly, consistently, well across the platform. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So kind of thinking through that, what we've brought to bear here is a simple platform, and a single platform that we're able to, or what y'all have developed rather, is this platform that allows us to stop today's evolving threats, and today's modern and kind of flat out terrifying attack vectors and methods that they're using. Some of them are old, like just horrible passwords, which if your passwords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, please go change it right now. But if you're doing everything right and the hacker's still able to find your way to steal your token and get into your Microsoft 365, we need that framework to be able to lock it down, alert on it, and find a way to contain that threat rapidly. So that's what we're really excited about bringing here. You know, if I were to kind of think through all of this and try to figure out what do we do with all this, there's two things I would suggest that I kind of mention to clients all the time is that one, pick your cybersecurity framework. If you're not sure what that term means, Stephan mentioned NIST. NIST is a fantastically strong cybersecurity framework. It's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They're the guys who wrote most of the technical code for the HIPAA laws, and they have really good, strong guidance on things. We just kind of walked through 4 very high-level steps of their framework. Center for Internet Security is another good cybersecurity framework. They're not competing. They're completely compatible. They lay on top of each other. They're both making similar recommendations. Perhaps how they say them is differently, and how their program and their guides work are a little different. But both of those are really good frameworks. But if you don't have that underlying plan, if you don't have a cybersecurity framework that your company says, we're going to take this and roll with it as if it were our own playbook, this is our guide. I can't recommend that that we do anything else short of, let's start with understanding that there are good plans out there for how to do cybersecurity. Pick one. These are just 2 examples. And second is once you've kind of picked your plan or decided to do that at some point soon, inspect your platform, inspect and audit your environment. Let's get a true baseline for where you're at, how secure you are. Are things configured right? Do you even have the ability to alert and monitor if a hacker is doing something? So critical 2 steps that I would wholeheartedly recommend you do is pick your cybersecurity framework today. And if you're in healthcare, HIPAA, NIST, that is your cybersecurity framework, whether or not you want to or not. But if you're not in healthcare, you have a lot more choices. What we've got as an offer, and we're kind of wrapping up here, is if you'd like us to, I will bring all the tools that Stephan has equipped us with and fire them off at your Microsoft 365 platform for a limited time and allow it to run a full audit in your environment. I'll show you everything that you need to know about how you've got it dialed in. What you need to do to adjust, what your security levels are, maybe where you're not using your money wisely. A lot of times we see that people have a bunch of unused licenses, or that they've licensed up stuff that they don't need, and we can save a little bit of money there and turn on some security features and still come out in the green. So if you want to look into that, if you want to have a conversation with us about this or any other conversation about cybersecurity or anything that we've talked about, go to my website, turnkeysol.com/secure365, turnkeysol.com/secure365. And we can start the conversation about how to do the audit, what it looks like, give you a little bit more information, and get that started for you at 0 cost to you. So really important, and we're so excited to bring those tools that you've got. If anybody has questions, now's a great time. You can always call or email us, but we're going to hang out here for a little bit for questions. Before we get too far down the road, Stephan, I'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you to Augmentt, and thank you to you for taking time out to share with us. You've given some real gold for advice.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, I'll keep an eye on the chat or the Q&A. Feel free to fire your questions in there. If you want to reach out to us afterwards, that's how to get a hold of us, right there on the screen. And look, we'll kind of throw out one last thing here, that if you're a customer or we're working with you on, or prospect and you're in the environment, stay tuned because we've got something pretty fun going on coming up. That I don't know how to make a video play apparently inside of PowerPoint, but we're having an event coming up pretty soon with where we will be not so much burying the hatchet, but doing a little hatchet throwing. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, and we haven't really kind of picked the name yet for the event, something like Chop the Hackers Out or Go Break something. I don't know. It's going to be a fun time. Stay tuned. We'll be inviting y'all to that as well pretty soon. You can get a chance to sit down and talk with IT experts, cybersecurity experts, and get a little maybe get a little frustration out of your system while you're at it. So if nobody's got any other questions or any questions, we'll call it a day. I really appreciate your time. Stephan, again, thank you so very much. We appreciate Augment's partnership and we appreciate you.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you all again. We appreciate your business. We appreciate your time. To everybody who's joined us today, turnkeysol.com /secure365. If you have questions or would like to fire up that audit and get a deep dive into your 365 security, and by any means get a hold of us, and we appreciate your time, we appreciate your business. We hope you have a great day. Y'all go get it.